I'd now like to introduce the next presenter, who is Tom Schoey. For over a decade, Tom served as Walmart's Executive Vice President and Chief Financial Officer. Tom is a director of KKR, also serves on the boards of General Motors and Northrop Grumman. Tom, welcome.
Well, Steve, thank you very much. I'm here to introduce Henry Kravis, who's this year's recipient of the Excellence in Public Policy Award. This is to recognize an individual in the public or private sector that demonstrates a strong commitment to public policy in the nation's long-term best interests. The award recognizes a leader who advocates for policies and addresses society's key concerns, including long-term economic growth, educational excellence, environmental sustainability, good corporate governance, innovation, and competitiveness. Throughout his career, Henry has demonstrated each and every one of those. Here in New York City, Henry founded the Partnership Fund for New York City nearly 20 years ago. It brings together business and financial leaders in the interest of diversifying the city's economy, including the critical sectors of healthcare, science, and technology. Inside KKR, Henry has put in place policies of just immense social value, including Vets for Work initiative. Close to 25,000 veterans have been hired by participating companies since this inception in 2011. Henry also founded the Kravis Leadership Institute at Claremont McKenna College. I think it might be represented here tonight, dedicated to helping students promote and understand responsible, innovative leadership. He also co-chairs the Columbia Business School Board of Governors and vice chairman of Rockefeller University. You know, getting ready for tonight, I had this prepared script. That's important. I also talked to Henry's business partner, George Roberts, and Henry's bride, Mary Jose. And you know what I learned in those conversations is something that I knew already, but they brought together some words that meant a lot to me and say a lot about Henry Kravis. Words like intense, that doesn't surprise anybody. Committed, fair. I thought that was, it's really kind of an interesting word because in Henry's mind, both sides should feel good about a deal, and I think that speaks volumes to him. Forgiving, passionate. And what you don't hear about are things like the SEO. Save that thought. I'd ask Henry to address something that is nowhere in this literature, but something that Henry might be just a little bit passionate about. Or ask Henry to talk to you about something that used to be called the New York City Investment Fund. Different name today, Henry. Maybe you can tell us about that. And the third thing I'd like for him to address is being in business with George Roberts for all these years. I'm sure you're aware KKR was founded in 1976, but George and Henry are cousins. They've known each other for quite some time. I'd like to know when the last time they had an argument was. Please help me in recognizing Mr. Henry Kravis.
Tom, thanks very much. I'm going to redo my speech now. I'm going to take the last part first, which he wanted me to talk about, which was the last time that George Roberts and I, we're first cousins, we grew up together 4 months apart in age, and people often ask, well, don't you guys really fight a lot? I mean, you're so close, but you know, you're both intense. And I said, you know, that's right. The last time we had a big disagreement, we both were 7 years old. He wanted to ride my new bicycle, which I had just gotten. I wanted to ride it. And I was chased inside the house, and I ran in the corner of a wall, cracked my head open, and had 26 stitches. Last fight we've ever had. So, Tom, that's your answer on that. Thank you very much, Tom, and Steve Odland, particularly for this great honor. And I really appreciate and I'm very happy to be here. I'm particularly impressed with the amount of accomplishments the CED's work has obtained over the last 72 years in improving public policy and promoting growth and having a really enhanced voice in business. There's no question about it that your important work and persistent dedication reminds us all that the intersection of business and public policy is critical in our country's economic development and the future. Now, here in New York, we know this only too well, and Tom talked about this a little bit. The economic vitality of this city and the opportunity for so many to rise and create and innovate is found at this critical intersection. And that depends on those in business doing our part. If we don't take care of our own backyard, I can assure you no one else will. So it's in that spirit that about 20 years ago I started something called the New York City Investment Fund. I thought about what was really important for New York City, and I thought about first what cities around the country where the public sector and the private sector work so well together to really create opportunities for those less fortunate and to create opportunities to make the community a much better place. And I thought of Minneapolis, I thought of Baltimore, I thought of Kansas City, and I thought of a number of other cities, but I did not think about New York. Because in those days, New York City, everybody did their own thing. New York City really didn't work very well together. So I had this idea, and I wanted to go out and talk to a number of CEOs, and I wanted to raise $100 million. I wanted to raise the $100 million from 100 corporations and individuals that would have the same vision that I did, was to build a network in this city to create opportunity for those really working in the inner city and be an investor of last resort and create jobs. And we've been very fortunate because it's also been a catalyst for creating many more new industries here in New York City. New York City for so many years, and at that time particularly, was very much a focus on Wall Street. And I knew someday that Wall Street would not be the same that it had been at that time. And I said, we need other industries. We have incredible universities and hospitals here, scientific institutions, and so on. We need to capture all that and get it together. And so what I had in mind was to create this network, get the best and the brightest from all the corporations in New York, and see if we couldn't help create some new industries. And we've done exactly that. We've built a very good bioscience industry in New York, which it didn't have, and now we are creating a number of jobs in that industry and in other industries as well. And we have created thousands of jobs in the city and invested in over 150 different companies. I'm very proud of the impact that has had on this city and the helping with the economic growth. Now, we worked hard to apply this principle to our investing process at KKR, focusing on the long-term positive impact of the companies in which we invest and in their communities. This is a critical role for business today. We strive to look at all our investments through a lens of how we can improve not only the bottom line of a company, but how those companies do business and how they participate in their communities and what they do for all of their employees. And do they have the best environmental footprint? And do they have the best governmental practices? So it's in that vein that we focus. And as CEO of a global financial services business, I know I can play a critical role in public policy. And let me explain just a couple examples of what we've been able to do. And I'm going to start with China first, because in China, you all know that there was a melamine problem with milk, or the tainted milk that was there. We came up with the idea, let's set up a farm and see if we can't have best practices and bring those best practices from Europe and the U.S. to help on food safety. Well, that one farm has now grown into 26 farms. We have over 200,000 cows now in those farms. It's now a publicly traded company, and the safety in milk products has really taken hold. The same vein, we have also done that now with chickens, and we've also done it with pork in China, because there was a real need, and that focus on the policy side was really the side of public safety and health. Right across the river in New Jersey, we acquired the water system of Bayonne, New Jersey, with the idea that we could help the city with a needed capital that they have, and we'd agree to also provide $150 million to strengthen that system. The water infrastructure was really poor, and we thought we could help that, and which in turn what that would do is help all of those in that community. Or consider the partnership that we established 5 years ago with the Environmental Defense Fund that improves the environmental footprint of many of our companies. So we said, let's do a test here, and let's take 25 of our various companies that we own and see if we can't do well by doing good. And that's exactly what has happened. These 25 companies, we've been able to reduce the energy usage. We've been able to take the forest products and water used and waste generated and recycle it. And all of this has resulted in over $1 billion of savings to these 25 companies that we have. And at the same time, it has reduced close to 2 million metric tons of greenhouse gas emission and saved enormous amount of water by recycling that water. Or through our Vets at Work program that we set up in 2011 to help our veterans. We have hired over 25,000 veterans across our various companies to making sure that those who are serving our country have a place to work when they come out of this. And so we also have wellness programs that we focus on here, and we have a partnership with the American Heart Association, and we're going to have a contest with corporations to see who will have the best wellness programs and the most improvement, because as we all know, health is such an important part, and it's something that we focus on very much. So it's all in the effort of trying to do well by doing good. And it's in that vein that all of us at KKR take our responsibility very seriously. And I want to thank all of you tonight for being here, for giving me this honor, and I appreciate being able to share this with many good friends that are receiving an honor tonight. Thank you very much.